The wolf should have died. The river had already claimed half its blood. Its white fur floated beneath black water, like a ghost disappearing into the storm. Yet somewhere along the frozen riverbank, a forgotten Omega girl refused to let go. Lightning split the sky. Thunder shook the mountains. And as Elara Vale dragged the dying beast from the current, she had no idea she was touching the fate of an entire kingdom. Because this was not an ordinary wolf. It belonged to the Alpha King's sacred bloodline. And hundreds of miles away, inside a palace built from black stone and fear, the most powerful Alpha ruler alive suddenly woke from a nightmare. His golden eyes snapped open. His heart pounded. A strange sensation crawled through his chest, as though destiny itself had just changed direction. He didn't know her name. He didn't know where she was. But for the first time in years, Kaelen Draven felt something impossible. Hope. And neither of them knew that before the next moon rose, love, betrayal, exile, war, and destiny would collide. Because the girl rescuing a wolf tonight would one day sit upon his throne. The storm arrived before sunset. Dark clouds swallowed the northern sky. Wind screamed through the pine forests. The river had become a monster. Its waters crashed against rocks with enough force to shatter bones. Most villagers had already barricaded themselves indoors. Nobody with sense remained outside, except Elara. The young Omega struggled against the wind while carrying a basket of fishing nets across her shoulder. Rain soaked her cloak. Mud clung to her boots. Every step felt heavier than the last. Life had never been kind to her. The northern settlements rarely showed mercy to Omegas without families, especially one carrying a strange silver mark on her wrist. A mark that frightened people. A mark that attracted whispers. A mark she hid beneath bandages whenever possible. The storm intensified. Lightning flashed across the river. Then she heard it.
A cry. Faint.
Painful. Almost drowned by thunder. Elara froze. The sound came again. Not human. Animal. Desperate. She followed it instinctively. Through thorn-covered brush. Across slippery rocks. Toward the raging river. Then she saw it. Her breath vanished. A massive white wolf was trapped among broken tree branches near the riverbank. Its body twisted unnaturally. Blood stained its fur. And its swollen belly revealed the truth.
Pregnant.
Very pregnant. Another cry escaped the wolf.
Weaker this time. Dying.
Elara's chest tightened. "You're not leaving yet," she whispered. The wolf growled. Not from aggression.
From fear. Pain.
Exhaustion. The river surged again. Another wave threatened to pull the animal back into the current. Elara didn't think. She acted. Throwing herself into freezing water. The cold hit like knives. Her muscles screamed. The current nearly dragged her away. But somehow she reached the wolf. Somehow she wrapped trembling arms around its massive neck. Somehow she refused to let go. Hours passed. Rain continued. Darkness deepened. Yet Elara fought. Inch by inch. Step by painful step. Dragging a creature twice her size toward safety. By midnight she collapsed inside her small cabin. The wolf lay beside the fire. Breathing. Alive.
Barely.
Blood covered Elara's hands. She cleaned wounds, applied herbs, changed bandages, fed water carefully. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, silence settled. Then something extraordinary happened. The silver mark beneath Elara's bandages began glowing faintly. A soft silver light spread through her fingertips. The wolf's breathing steadied. Its heartbeat strengthened. The glow vanished moments later. Elara never noticed. Exhaustion claimed her first. Hours later, the wolf howled. A sharp sound filled the cabin. Elara jolted awake. The birth had begun. Dawn painted the horizon pale blue. Snow mixed with rain. And beneath the warmth of the fire, 2 tiny wolf pups entered the world. Healthy. Strong.
Alive.
Tears filled Elara's eyes. The mother wolf nudged one pup toward her, as though offering thanks, as though recognizing something ancient, something forgotten, something sacred. For the first time in years, Elara smiled. Unfortunately, the kingdom had already begun searching Far south, royal trackers followed fresh scents through forests. Armored riders crossed mountains. Sacred wolves were never ordinary creatures, and one of them had disappeared. 3 days later, the riders arrived. The entire village froze. Children hid indoors. Doors slammed shut. Fear spread like wildfire. Black armor, royal banners, alpha warriors. Everyone knew what those symbols meant.
Death.
Judgment. Power. The rider stopped before Elara's cabin. She stepped outside, heart racing, hands shaking. The captain approached, his face unreadable. The village held its breath. Everyone expected chains, execution,
Punishment.
Instead, the captain dropped to one knee. Every soldier followed. Silence exploded across the village. Elara stared in disbelief. Behind her, the wolf pups emerged from the cabin. The soldiers lowered their heads immediately. Reverence, respect, submission. The captain finally spoke. "The Alpha King summons you." Elara's stomach dropped. The Alpha King, Kaelen Draven. The name alone carried terror. The ruler feared across every territory. The king wolves obeyed. The king enemies feared. The king children whispered about at night. And now, he wanted her. Days later, the capital appeared beyond mountain cliffs. Massive black walls, towering spires, banners dancing in cold wind. Elara had never seen anything so intimidating. The royal palace rose above everything. A fortress built for monsters and kings. Perhaps both. Her escort led her through enormous gates, past nobles, servants, warriors. Everyone stared. Everyone whispered. The feeling made her skin crawl. Finally, the throne room doors opened. Silence swallowed the world. At the far end sat Kaelen Draven, the Alpha King. Dark armor, broad shoulders, golden eyes. Power radiated from him like heat from a wildfire. He looked less like a man, more like something ancient pretending to be human. Elara suddenly understood why kingdoms feared him. Then his gaze shifted, downward, toward her wrist, toward the bandage hiding the silver mark. Something changed in his expression.
Shock.
Recognition.
Fear.
For the first time, the Alpha King looked shaken, and that terrified Elara far more than his power ever could. Silence ruled the throne room. Not the peaceful kind, the dangerous kind, the kind that existed moments before a blade was drawn, the kind that made breathing feel loud. Elara stood beneath towering black pillars while hundreds of eyes watched her. Nobles, generals, advisors, servants. Every person inside the throne room seemed to be waiting for something. Waiting for the Alpha King to speak. Waiting for judgment. Waiting for her fate. Yet Kaelen Draven remained motionless. His golden eyes stayed fixed on the bandage wrapped around her wrist. The silver mark. The symbol hidden beneath cloth and years of fear. A symbol that should not exist. A symbol that haunted his nightmares. Thunder rolled outside the palace windows. For a brief moment, the sound transported Kaelen backward through time. Back to blood. Back to fire. Back to the night his mother died. Back to the prophecy. Kaelen had been only 12 years old. The palace burned around him. Smoke filled the air. Screams echoed through endless corridors. His mother had fallen to her knees beside a shattered stained glass window. Blood spread across her silver gown. The young prince held her trembling hand, desperately,
Hopelessly.
trying to stop death itself. But death never listened. Her fingers touched his cheek. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. One day, a girl carrying the moon mark will save what the crown cannot. Tears filled his eyes. What does that mean? His mother smiled sadly. The kingdom will survive because of her. Then she died. And Kaelen spent the next 20 years hunting answers. Yet every record pointed to the same conclusion. The moon-mark bloodline had vanished centuries ago. Extinct.
Gone.
Impossible. Until now. Until her. The memory vanished. Reality returned. And Elara still stood before him.
Alive.
Breathing. Terrified. Impossible. Kaelen finally rose from his throne. The room instantly became tense. Even powerful nobles lowered their eyes. The Alpha King descended the throne's steps slowly. Each footstep echoed like a war drum. Closer, 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 until he stood directly before her. Elara fought the urge to step backward. Every instinct told her to run. But there was nowhere to run. Not from a king. Not from him. Kaelen reached toward her wrist. The movement caused several guards to tense. Elara froze. His fingers brushed the bandage. A strange sensation shot through both of them. Like static. Like heat. Like something ancient awakening beneath their skin. Kaelen immediately pulled away. His expression darkened. Interesting. Very interesting. Remove it. The command was calm, yet impossible to ignore. Elara swallowed. Slowly, she untied the bandage. The cloth fell away. Gasps spread through the throne room. The silver crescent mark glowed faintly beneath palace light. Exactly as the prophecy described. Exactly as the ancient texts illustrated. Kaelen stared. The room stared. Nobody spoke. Then one elderly noble stepped forward. His face pale. Your Majesty. Kaelen never looked away from Elara.
Speak.
The old man hesitated. The mark is real. The room erupted into whispers. Shock moved through the crowd like wildfire. Some looked frightened. Others fascinated. Several looked furious. One woman looked murderous. Lady Seraphine Voss. The most powerful noblewoman in the kingdom. The future queen, or so she believed. At least until this moment. Seraphine watched Elara carefully. Her smile never changed. But hatred flickered inside her eyes. A hatred so cold it felt ancient. The Omega girl didn't understand it. Not yet. But Seraphine understood immediately. Danger. This girl represented danger. Hours later, Elara found herself inside a luxurious chamber larger than her entire cottage. She hated it. The silk curtains. The golden furniture. The enormous windows. Everything felt wrong. Foreign. Like she had wandered into someone else's dream. Two servants stood near the doorway, watching her constantly, waiting for instructions. The attention made her uncomfortable. She missed the river. She missed silence. She missed being invisible. Most of all, she missed certainty. Because nothing made sense anymore. Why had the king brought her here? Why had everyone reacted to her mark? Why did nobles keep staring? Questions surrounded her like wolves. And answers remained hidden. A soft scratching sound interrupted her thoughts. She turned. The door opened. Two small white wolf pups raced inside. The same pups she had helped deliver. They immediately jumped onto her bed. Tails wagging. Excited.
Happy.
Elara laughed softly. The sound surprised even her. One pup climbed into her lap. The other curled against her side. Comfort.
Warmth.
Home. For a moment, everything felt normal again. Then the door opened once more. And Kaelen entered. The room instantly changed. The air felt heavier. The servants bowed deeply before rushing out, leaving them alone. The king's gaze moved toward the pups. Neither animal acknowledged him. Both remained attached to Elara. Kaelen found that strangely irritating. These wolves obeyed him absolutely. Yet around her, they forgot everyone else existed. His eyes narrowed. Interesting. Elara lowered her gaze. My king. He hated how nervous she sounded. Hated it more than he should. You fear me.
She almost laughed.
Fear him? The entire kingdom fear him. Shouldn't I? Kaelen said nothing. The question lingered. Heavy. Uncomfortable.
True.
Finally, he moved toward the window. Snow drifted outside. Winter approached. The kingdom looked peaceful from here. Appearances lied. Always. Do you know what that mark means? Elara looked at her wrist.
No.
You've never been told?
No.
The answer felt genuine. Kaelen studied her carefully. She wasn't lying, which made everything worse. Because if she truly didn't know, then someone had hidden the truth deliberately. And that meant danger. A great deal of danger. Days passed. Then weeks. Strange events followed Elara everywhere. Aggressive wolves became calm around her. Injured hunting animals recovered unusually quickly. A wounded hawk survived despite impossible injuries. Even palace hounds abandoned their trainers whenever she appeared. Rumors spread. Magic, prophecy, witchcraft, destiny. Nobody knew the truth, but everyone talked, especially the nobles, especially Seraphine. One evening she stood upon a balcony overlooking the royal gardens. Her closest ally approached quietly. Lord Malric, a council advisor, a dangerous man hidden behind a pleasant smile. You dislike the girl. Seraphine laughed softly. Dislike. She watched Elara walking below with the wolf pups. Nearby, Kaelen observed from a distance. Again. Always again. The king never watched anyone. Yet lately, he watched her constantly. And Seraphine noticed every single time. No, Seraphine whispered. I don't dislike her. Then what? Her smile became colder. Danger should never be allowed near a throne. Below them, Kaelen unexpectedly stepped forward. One of the wolf pups stumbled. Before it could fall, Elara caught it instantly. The king smiled. A small smile. Brief. Almost invisible. But Seraphine saw it, and something inside her snapped. Because Kaelen Draven never smiled. Not for anyone. Not for years. Until her. Until the Omega. And jealousy began transforming into obsession. The kind that destroyed kingdoms. 3 nights later, Kaelen sat inside the royal archives. Ancient books covered the table. Dust filled the air. Moonlight spilled through stained glass windows. Across from him sat Elara, exhausted, confused, curious. Together they searched forgotten records, searching for answers, searching for truth. Finally, Kaelen opened a damaged manuscript. The page revealed an illustration, a queen, a silver crescent mark, and wolves kneeling around her. His pulse quickened. The text beneath it made his blood run cold. The daughter of moon blood shall return when the throne stands nearest destruction. Elara stared. So, that's me? Kaelen slowly looked up. For the first time, he wasn't sure whether finding her would save the kingdom or destroy it. Then, a sharp metallic sound echoed behind them. Too late. A shadow burst from darkness. Steel flashed. An assassin. The blade flew toward Elara's throat. Kaelen moved instantly. His chair crashed backward. His hand reached for his sword. But the assassin was already close. Too close. The knife descended, and everything changed. The knife never reached her throat. A violent roar shattered the silence of the archives. Kaelen moved faster than human eyes could follow. Years of war. Years of bloodshed. Years of surviving assassination attempts. Every instinct inside him exploded into action. His hand seized the assassin's wrist. Bone cracked. The blade spun across the stone floor. Elara barely had time to gasp before the Alpha King threw himself between her and death. The attacker snarled. A second dagger appeared. Poison glistened along its edge. Kaelen's golden eyes darkened. Not with fear. With fury. Pure fury. The assassin lunged. A heartbeat later, Kaelen's sword pierced his chest. Silence returned. The attacker collapsed. Blood spread across ancient stone. For several seconds, nobody moved. Elara could only stare. The king remained standing in front of her, protecting her, shielding her. His body formed a wall between her and danger. A wall that had appeared without hesitation, without thought, without command, as if protecting her had become instinct. Then the dying assassin laughed. The sound was wet, broken, disturbing. Blood dripped from his mouth. His eyes locked onto Elara, and he whispered, "The throne will fall because of her." Then he died. The words echoed through the archives. Heavy, unwelcome, dangerous. And for the first time since arriving at the palace, Elara felt true fear. Not fear for herself, fear for what she might unknowingly become. The palace erupted into chaos. Guards flooded every corridor. Doors were locked. Patrols doubled. Servants whispered behind closed doors. Rumors spread through the kingdom before sunrise. The mysterious Omega girl. The assassination attempt. The prophecy. The impossible mark. Everything became fuel for gossip. Everything became political ammunition. And in the center of it all stood Elara.
Alone.
Terrified. Confused. She sat inside her chamber while rain tapped softly against the windows. The room felt smaller than before. Colder. The assassin's words refused to leave her thoughts. The throne will fall because of her. What if it was true? What if everyone suffered because she existed? What if the prophecy was a curse? A knock interrupted her thoughts. Before she answered, the door opened. Kaelen entered. His expression was unreadable. His dark coat still carried traces of rain. The moment he stepped inside, the room felt different. Safer. Stronger. More dangerous. All at once. Elara looked away first. The memory of him protecting her remained painfully vivid. Kaelen noticed. Of course he noticed. He noticed everything. You're afraid. His voice remained calm. Elara forced a smile. I'm trying not to be. That wasn't an answer. Her eyes lowered. The silence stretched. Then finally she whispered. What if he's right? Kaelen's jaw tightened. The question irritated him. Not because she asked it. Because a part of him had already asked himself the same thing. He crossed the room slowly. Stopped beside the window. Snow drifted outside. Winter had finally arrived. The kingdom was falling long before you arrived. Elara blinked. He continued. People simply needed someone new to blame. Something softened inside her. Not entirely, but enough. For the first time since the attack, she breathed easier. Kaelen noticed that too. And strangely, the sight relieved him. The next morning changed everything. A royal decree spread throughout the palace. One command. One decision. One scandal. Elara Vale would remain under the Alpha King's personal protection. The reaction was immediate.
Shock.
Outrage. Suspicion. The royal court exploded with whispers. Because personal protection meant proximity. Constant proximity. And proximity created opportunities. Opportunities created rumors. Rumors created danger. Seraphine nearly shattered a wine glass when she heard the news. The crystal cracked inside her hand. Blood dripped across her fingers. Yet her smile remained perfectly composed. Always composed. Always beautiful. Always deadly. Across the room, Lord Malric watched carefully. You're upset. Seraphine laughed. A cold sound. Elegant. Full.
No.
Another crack appeared in the glass. Just disappointed. Her eyes darkened. The king is becoming predictable. Malric understood immediately. And that worried him. Because predictable kings were vulnerable kings. Days became weeks. Weeks became something neither Elara nor Kaelen expected. Routine. Every morning they met in the archives. Every afternoon they walked the palace grounds under heavy guard. Every evening they studied forgotten histories. Searching for answers. Searching for truth.
Searching for a
future hidden inside ancient lies. And slowly, without permission, walls began falling. Not the palace walls. Their walls. The emotional ones. One evening they stood inside the royal wolf sanctuary. Moonlight silvered the snow. Sacred wolves rested nearby. Massive creatures feared across the kingdom. Yet around Elara they behaved differently. Gentler.
calmer.
Almost affectionate. One enormous silver wolf rested its head against her shoulder. Kaelen watched silently. A strange ache settled inside his chest. Jealousy. The realization irritated him. He was jealous of a wolf. Ridiculous. Elara smiled. The wolf wagged its tail. And suddenly Kaelen remembered something. His mother's smile.
Warm.
Gentle. Safe. A memory he had spent years trying to forget. The realization hit harder than any battlefield wound. Because Elara made him remember things he had buried. Things he could not afford to feel. Things that made powerful men weak. Several nights later, the storm returned. Not outside. Inside. Kaelen stood alone on a palace balcony, overlooking the kingdom. Dark clouds covered the horizon. The wind howled through stone towers. Sleep refused to come. Again. Just like every night. Just like every year. The nightmares never truly left. Footsteps approached.
Light.
Careful. Familiar. Elara. She stopped beside him. Neither spoke. The silence felt comfortable. Strange, but comfortable. Finally, she noticed it. The tension in his shoulders. The exhaustion hidden behind his eyes. The loneliness. Do you ever sleep? A faint smile touched his lips. Sometimes. You just lied. That surprised him. Enough that he actually laughed. A real laugh.
Short.
Quiet. But real. The sound shocked both of them. Elara stared. Kaelen looked away immediately. As if embarrassed. The moment felt oddly intimate. Dangerously intimate. Then silence returned. Softer this time. And for reasons neither fully understood. Neither wanted to leave. Weeks later, a breakthrough arrived. Hidden beneath layers of forgotten history. Inside a sealed chamber beneath the archives. Ancient records revealed a truth buried for centuries. The Moon bloodline. Elara's bloodline. They had once served the first queen. Not as subjects. Not as servants. As protectors. Guardians of a sacred power hidden beneath the kingdom itself. A power connected to wolves. To healing. To destiny. To the throne. The discovery changed everything. Because suddenly Elara wasn't merely important. She was essential. And that made her dangerous. The royal court gathered days later. Nobles argued. Generals debated. Tension filled the chamber. A border dispute threatened war. Every advisor demanded military action. Including Seraphine. Especially Seraphine. Then Kaelen did something nobody expected. He turned toward Elara. What would you do? The room froze. Shock spread instantly. An Omega, a commoner, asked for counsel before the royal court. Elara hesitated. Every eye watched her, waiting, judging, hoping she would fail. Then she spoke.
Carefully.
Honestly. Intelligently. And when she finished, the room fell silent. Because her solution worked. Because her reasoning was sound. Because she was right. Kaelen immediately accepted her recommendation.
Publicly.
Without hesitation. Without consulting Seraphine. Without consulting anyone else. The court erupted into whispers. And, across the chamber, Seraphine finally understood the truth. She was losing. Not politically. Personally. Emotionally. Completely. The king was slipping away. And Elara was the reason. That night, inside her private chambers, Seraphine stood beside a candlelit desk. A cruel smile slowly appeared. Before her rested several documents. Letters. Official seals. Royal signatures. Perfect forgeries. Evidence designed to destroy lives. Her fingers brushed the papers. Satisfied. Patient.
Deadly.
Because if she could not remove Elara through politics, she would remove her through betrayal. And when the final forged letter was completed, even the Alpha King would question the woman he was beginning to love. The trap had begun, and neither Elara nor Kaelen saw it coming. Winter tightened its grip around the kingdom. Snow buried roads. Ice crept across castle walls. The forests surrounding the capital stood silent beneath white blankets of frost. Yet inside the palace, something far colder was spreading.
Doubt.
It moved through corridors like poison. Invisible. Patient.
Deadly.
And, at the center of it stood Elara. Though she did not know it yet, the trap had already closed around her. The first accusation arrived quietly. A sealed letter discovered by palace guards. At first nobody paid much attention. Political correspondence was common, especially during border disputes. But this letter carried a name. Elara Vale. The contents were alarming. Information about military movements. Private royal discussions. Secrets that should never have left palace walls. The letter claimed they had been passed to foreign enemies. Most believed it was impossible. Some believed it immediately. Seraphine made certain of that. She never openly accused Elara. That would have been too obvious. Too reckless. Instead, she planted doubt. A whispered concern here. A worried observation there. A sympathetic expression. A carefully timed question. Nothing more. Nothing less. Like a spider strengthening a web, waiting for prey to struggle. Within days, more evidence appeared. Another letter. Then another. Then another. Each one worse than the last. each one carrying forged signatures, forged seals, forged proof. The royal court became divided. Nobles who already disliked Elara demanded punishment. Others remained uncertain. The arguments grew louder, more vicious, more dangerous. And with every passing day, the pressure on Kaelen increased. The Alpha King sat alone inside his war chamber. The fire crackled softly. Maps covered the walls. Yet his attention remained fixed on the letters spread across the table. His golden eyes scanned every detail, every seal, every word, every accusation.
None of it felt right.
None of it felt like Elara. But feelings were not evidence. Facts were. And the facts were beginning to turn against her. A knock echoed through the room. Enter. The door opened. Elara stepped inside. The moment she saw the letters, her stomach dropped. Fear tightened around her chest. She recognized the look in Kaelen's eyes. Not anger. Something worse. Uncertainty. The sight hurt more than she expected, because she trusted him. And now she could see that trust beginning to crack. For several moments, neither spoke. The fire hissed. Wind rattled the windows. Silence stretched between them.
Heavy.
Painful. Finally, Elara stepped closer. You think I did this? Kaelen immediately answered.
No.
But the response came too slowly, and both of them noticed. The delay shattered something. Tiny, invisible, important. Elara looked away. Her throat tightened. Then why are you looking at me like that? Kaelen had no answer. Because the truth was ugly. Because the evidence was growing. Because every new discovery pushed him further toward a possibility he refused to accept. Most of all, because he was terrified. Terrified of believing in someone completely. Terrified of losing them. Just as he had lost everyone before. His mother's face flashed through his memory.
Blood. Fire. Loss.
Always loss. The fear poisoned his judgment. And for the first time, Elara felt it. Days passed. The distance between them grew. Small at first. Then unbearable. Conversations became shorter. Smiles disappeared. Silence replaced comfort. Every interaction felt fragile. As though one wrong word could destroy everything. And perhaps it already had. One evening, Elara stood alone inside the royal gardens. Snow drifted through moonlight. The wolf pups played nearby. Now larger. Stronger. Their bright eyes followed her constantly. Protective.
Loyal.
Unlike people. Footsteps approached. She already knew who it was.
Kaelen.
Neither spoke immediately. The cold air filled the space between them. Finally, he stopped beside her. Close. Yet impossibly distant. For several moments, they simply watched the snow fall. Then Elara whispered, Do you trust me? The question struck harder than any blade. Kaelen stared at the frozen garden, at the wolves, at the snow, anywhere except her, because looking at her made the answer impossible. Finally he spoke. I want to. The words landed like a wound. Elara closed her eyes, not because she was angry, because she was heartbroken. Want to. Not do. Not yes. Not always. Want to. And, in that moment, she realized she was losing him. Meanwhile, Seraphine watched everything. Every argument. Every silence. Every crack forming between them. Exactly as planned. The manipulation had become effortless. The deeper their feelings grew, the easier it became to weaponize them. Because betrayal hurts most when love exists. And Seraphine understood pain better than anyone. Then came the final blow. The evidence that destroyed everything. A hidden compartment discovered inside Kaelen's private chambers. Only a handful of people had access. Inside lay correspondence linking Elara directly to enemy forces. Military secrets. Strategic information. Plans that could cripple the kingdom. The discovery exploded through the palace. Even loyal supporters began doubting her. The royal council demanded immediate action.
Publicly.
Loudly. Relentlessly. The kingdom wanted justice. The nobles wanted blood. And civil unrest began spreading beyond the capital. The council meeting became a battlefield. Voices echoed across marble walls. Arguments collided. Accusations filled the air. Elara stood at the center, alone. Every noble stared. Every advisor judged. Every whisper cut deeper. Kaelen sat upon the throne, motionless. But inside, he was breaking, because none of this felt real. Yet every piece of evidence pointed in one direction. Toward her. Toward the woman he could no longer imagine living without. The woman he feared trusting completely. The woman he loved, though he still refused to admit it. Hours later, the decision came. Not from justice. From politics. To prevent rebellion. To calm the kingdom. To preserve stability. Elara Vale would be exiled. Not executed. Not imprisoned. Exiled. Banished beyond kingdom borders. Effective immediately. The sentence struck the room like thunder. Elara felt the world tilt beneath her feet. For a moment she couldn't breathe.
Couldn't think.
Couldn't move. Her eyes found Kaelen.
Desperately. Silently. Hoping. Begging.
Waiting. For him to stop it. For him to choose her. For him to believe. Instead, the Alpha King signed the decree. The sound of pen against parchment felt louder than a scream. Something shattered inside both of them. Irreparably. The next morning dawned gray and merciless. Snow fell from a colorless sky. The palace gates stood open, waiting. Elara sat atop a horse. A small pack carried the few belongings she owned. The wolf pups paced restlessly nearby, whining, refusing to leave her side. Even they sensed the pain, the injustice, the loss. She looked back once, only once, toward the palace, toward the man standing high above on the battlements. Kaelen. Their eyes met across impossible distance. Neither spoke, neither moved, yet entire conversations passed between them.
Regret. Love. Pain. Loss. Goodbye.
Then Elara turned away and rode into exile. Kaelen remained standing long after she vanished. Snow settled across his shoulders, his hair, his armor. Yet he never noticed, because for the first time since becoming king, the palace felt empty. Not quiet. Empty. As though something vital had been ripped from its foundations. As though he had made the greatest mistake of his life. Days later, far beyond the kingdom, beyond villages, beyond roads, beyond civilization itself, Elara wandered through forgotten mountains. Alone. Broken. Heart aching with every step. Until one evening, she discovered something impossible. Ancient ruins hidden beneath the cliffs. Older than the kingdom. Older than memory. Older than history. A silver symbol identical to the mark on her wrist glowed faintly upon a massive stone gate. The air hummed with ancient power. The moment Elara stepped inside, the ground trembled. Shadows moved. And from the darkness emerged enormous wolves. Ancient wolves. Their eyes glowing silver beneath the ruins. One by one, they lowered their heads. Not in threat. Not in curiosity. In recognition. In loyalty. In reverence. As though they had been waiting centuries for her return. And, deep beneath the mountain, something ancient finally awakened. The ancient wolves bowed, one after another. Massive silver-furred creatures lowered their heads before the broken Omega girl standing inside the forgotten ruins. For several heartbeats, Elara could only stare. The underground chamber stretched endlessly beneath the mountain. Ancient pillars disappeared into darkness. Silver symbols glowed across stone walls. The air carried the scent of snow, earth, and something far older than either. Magic. Ancient magic. The kind whispered about in legends. The kind kingdoms killed for. The kind that had nearly vanished from the world. And somehow, it recognized her. The wolves remained motionless. Waiting. Watching. As though expecting a command. Elara's heart pounded. She took an uncertain step backward. Immediately the largest wolf raised its head. Its silver eyes met hers. Ancient intelligence lived behind that gaze. Not animal intelligence. Something deeper. Something older. The wolf approached.
Slowly. Carefully.
Until it stood directly before her. Its size was terrifying. Its shoulders reached her chest. Its presence felt almost supernatural. Then the creature spoke. Not with words. Not with sound. Inside her mind, a voice echoed through her soul. Moon Daughter. Elara froze. The voice continued. You have finally returned.
The world seemed to stop breathing.
Moon Daughter. Returned. The words felt impossible. Yet something deep inside her responded. Something ancient. Something that had always existed beneath her fear. Beneath her loneliness. Beneath her pain. The silver mark on her wrist began glowing. Brighter than ever before. And suddenly, the ruins awakened. Light erupted across the chamber. Silver energy surged through ancient carvings. Symbols ignited along the walls. The ground trembled. Dust rained from the ceiling. Then visions flooded Elara's mind. Not dreams. Memories. Ancient memories. She saw wolves running beneath moonlit skies. She saw queens wearing silver crowns. She saw warriors kneeling before women carrying the same mark she possessed. Generation after generation. Century after century. The moon bloodline.
Her bloodline.
They had never been servants. Never healers alone. They had been guardians. Protectors of an ancient force hidden beneath the kingdom. A force connected to life itself. To wolves. To destiny. And to the throne. Tears filled Elara's eyes. Because for the first time in her life, she finally knew who she was. She was not abandoned. She was not cursed. She was not unwanted. She belonged somewhere. And that realization healed wounds no magic ever could. Far away, inside the capital, the kingdom was falling apart. Exactly as the prophecy had warned. The palace corridors, once filled with confidence, now carried fear. Political alliances fractured. Border conflicts intensified. Food shortages spread. Rebellions emerged throughout distant territories. And through it all, Seraphine continued tightening her grip. Every problem strengthened her influence. Every crisis weakened Kaelen. The Alpha King sat upon his throne. But increasingly, the throne felt like a prison. Weeks after Elara's exile, the truth finally emerged. By accident. A careless mistake. A servant discovered forged documents hidden inside a storage chamber connected to one of Seraphine's allies. At first, nobody understood their importance. Then investigators compared seals, signatures, handwriting, everything. The evidence became undeniable. The letters had been forged. Every accusation, every piece of proof, every reason Elara had been exiled.
Lies.
All of it. The revelation struck Kaelen like a sword through the heart. For several moments he simply stood staring at the documents, unable to move, unable to breathe, unable to think. Then came the memories. Elara asking if he trusted her. The pain in her eyes. The silence between them. The decree. The exile. The look she gave him before leaving. Every moment returned at once. And with them came something even worse.
Guilt. Crushing.
Merciless. Unforgiving guilt. Because she had trusted him. And he had failed her. That night the Alpha King destroyed his chambers. Furniture shattered. Glass exploded. Tables splintered. Servants fled in terror. No one dared approach. No one dared interrupt. Because Kaelen Draven was finally experiencing something more painful than anger. Regret. And regret was consuming him alive. The next morning he rode north. Then west. Then deeper into the wilderness. Searching. Obsessively. Desperately. Weeks became months. Still he searched. Every village. Every mountain pass. Every abandoned road. He followed rumors. Stories. Whispers. Anything. Everything. Yet Elara remained beyond his reach. And the longer she remained gone, the more he feared he would never see her again. Meanwhile, Elara transformed. Not suddenly. Not magically. Gradually. Through hardship. Through discovery. Through acceptance. The ancient wolves taught her forgotten knowledge. Ancient spirits guided her through visions. Silver magic responded to her emotions. Her healing abilities grew stronger. More precise. More powerful. She learned how to command sacred wolves. How to sense wounds. How to channel life itself. But most importantly, she learned how to stand tall, how to stop apologizing for existing, how to stop seeking validation from people who doubted her worth. The frightened Omega girl slowly disappeared, and someone new emerged. Someone stronger. Someone worthy of the crown destiny had prepared for her long before birth. Then war arrived. Without warning. Without mercy. Enemy forces invaded from the eastern borders. Rebellions erupted simultaneously across multiple territories. Chaos exploded throughout the kingdom. And hidden beneath it all, Seraphine moved closer to power than ever before. The kingdom stood on the edge of collapse. The prophecy was unfolding, exactly as foretold. The final battle began at dawn. Snowstorms swept across the mountains. Royal forces struggled to hold their lines. Defeat seemed inevitable. Then something extraordinary happened. Soldiers looked toward the northern cliffs. At first they saw only shadows. Movement. Shapes emerging through falling snow. Then the shapes became wolves.
Hundreds of them. No.
Thousands. Sacred wolves. Ancient wolves. Silver wolves. An unstoppable tide descending from the mountains. Fear spread through both armies. Because creatures from legends were not supposed to exist. Yet they were here. And they were coming.
Fast.
At the front of the massive pack rode a woman dressed in silver and white. Her cloak danced in the wind. Her eyes glowed softly beneath the storm. Power surrounded her like moonlight. Confidence radiated from every movement, every breath, every glance. The frightened Omega was gone. The queen of the forgotten wolves had arrived. Elara. The battlefield fell silent. Even the storm seemed to hesitate. Kaelen stared across the snow-covered valley. For a moment he thought he was dreaming, because the woman approaching looked nothing like the girl he had exiled. She looked stronger, calmer, untouchable, beautiful, and the realization struck him harder than any battlefield wound. He had lost her, not physically, emotionally. He had broken something precious, and he wasn't sure it could ever be repaired. The armies watched as Elara approached. The wolves parted around her, creating a path, a throne of living loyalty. She stopped before Kaelen. The entire kingdom watched, waiting, breathless. The Alpha King slowly stepped forward. Then, he did something no one had ever seen before. Something no king in living memory had ever done. Kaelen Draven knelt. Before her, gasps erupted across the battlefield. Shock swept through every soldier, every noble, every commander, every witness. The most powerful Alpha alive lowered his head and finally spoke the truth. I was wrong. The words felt heavier than mountains. His voice cracked slightly, barely noticeable. Yet Elara heard it. Everyone heard it. I failed you. Silence followed. Painful silence. Hopeful silence. Dangerous silence. For a moment nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then the ground beneath the capital trembled.
Once. Twice.
3 times. A deep roar echoed beneath the earth. Ancient. Hungry.
Terrifying.
The color drained from Elara's face, because she recognized the sound immediately. The ancient darkness. The force her ancestors had spent centuries containing. Far away, inside the capital, Seraphine stood beneath the royal palace, surrounded by broken seals and ancient symbols. A triumphant smile crossed her face. She believed she had finally won. Instead, she had just awakened the nightmare hidden beneath the kingdom. And as darkness began rising from the depths, every prophecy moved toward its final chapter. The earth split beneath the capital. A sound unlike anything the kingdom had ever heard erupted from below. Not a roar, not an explosion. Something older. Something that belonged to an age before kings. Before kingdoms. Before history. The ground trembled violently. Stone towers cracked. Windows shattered. Citizens flooded into the streets in panic. Far beneath the royal palace, ancient seals forged thousands of years ago shattered one by one. And darkness began to rise. Snowstorms howled across the battlefield. Every soldier felt it. Every wolf felt it. Even the mountains seemed to recoil. Elara's heart dropped. The ancient prison had been opened, The same prison her ancestors had sworn to guard. The same prison hidden within every vision she had witnessed inside the forgotten ruins. The darkness wasn't merely a creature. It was a force, a living corruption, an ancient hunger that consumed life itself. And now, it was free. Kaelen immediately rose. His instincts as king overtook everything else. The war, the apology, the pain between them. None of it mattered anymore. Only survival. Only the kingdom. Only her. His golden eyes locked onto Elara. For one brief moment neither spoke. Yet, understanding passed between them. The final battle had arrived. Hours later, the capital burned. Black smoke swallowed the sky. Citizens fled through ruined streets. Royal guards fought desperately against creatures emerging from underground tunnels. Monstrous shadows climbed palace walls. Their bodies twisted with corruption. Their eyes glowed crimson. Every wound they inflicted spread darkness further. Fear ruled the city. The kingdom stood one step from extinction. At the center of the chaos stood Seraphine, the architect of it all, the woman who believed power could replace destiny. She stood upon the palace balcony overlooking destruction. Fire reflected inside her eyes. For years she had desired the throne. For years she had envied anyone loved more than herself. For years she had convinced herself that power would fill the emptiness inside her. Instead, it had only made the void larger. And now the kingdom paid the price. The darkness gathered around her, whispering, promising, tempting, offering control, offering victory, offering everything she had ever wanted. Seraphine smiled, then accepted. Black energy wrapped around her body. Ancient corruption flooded her veins. Her scream echoed across the capital. And when it ended, she was no longer entirely human. Meanwhile, Elara stood atop the palace walls. Silver magic flowed around her. Thousands of sacred wolves surrounded the city below, fighting, protecting, holding the line. The moon mark on her wrist blazed brighter than ever before. Ancient power surged through her veins. Yet despite everything she had become, fear still existed. Not fear of dying, fear of failing, fear of losing him. Because somewhere below, Kaelen was fighting, alone, deep inside the palace, moving toward the source of the corruption, toward Seraphine, toward death. Steel clashed against darkness. The Alpha King cut through monsters like a storm unleashed. His black armor dripped with blood. His sword glowed beneath moonlight. Years of warfare. Years of survival. Years of becoming a monster for his kingdom. Everything led to this moment. Every wound. Every sacrifice. Every loss. Yet despite the battle surrounding him, his thoughts returned to one person. Elara. Always Elara. The girl from the river. The girl he had failed. The girl he loved. The realization no longer frightened him. It only hurt, because he should have told her sooner. Before the exile, before the heartbreak, before the distance, before destiny forced them apart. The palace throne room exploded inward. Stone shattered. Columns collapsed. Darkness flooded the chamber. And from the ruins emerged Seraphine. Transformed. Terrifying. Corruption twisted around her like living smoke. Her eyes burned crimson. Power radiated from her in violent waves. Kaelen tightened his grip on his sword. The final enemy stood before him. You chose her. Seraphine's voice echoed unnaturally. A dozen voices speaking at once. Accusing. Hating. Breaking. You chose an Omega over your kingdom. Kaelen stared at her.
No.
His voice remained steady. I chose the only person who ever cared about it. For a moment rage consumed her completely. The darkness exploded. And the battle began. The throne room became a war zone. Black magic collided against steel. Stone walls collapsed. Ancient statues shattered. Kaelen fought with everything he possessed. Yet corruption kept growing stronger. The darkness fed upon hatred. Fed upon pain. Fed upon fear. And Seraphine carried enough of all three to fuel an army. Slowly, the battle turned against him. Outside, Elara felt it. The bond. The connection. Something was wrong. terribly wrong. Without hesitation, she ran. Through burning corridors. Past collapsing walls. Toward the throne room.
Toward him.
She arrived just as Kaelen fell. The darkness struck him directly. His sword flew from his hand. Blood splashed across shattered stone. The Alpha King crashed to the floor. Motionless.
Silent. Still.
For one horrifying moment, the world stopped. Elara's breath vanished. Her heart shattered.
No.
Not him. Not after everything. Not now. Seraphine laughed. The sound echoed across the ruined throne room. Triumphant.
Mad.
Victorious. Look at him. Darkness coiled around her body. He was never yours. The words barely registered, because Elara was already moving, already kneeling beside him, already holding him. His heartbeat felt weak, dangerously weak. Life slipping away. Tears filled her eyes. Not from weakness, from love. The kind of love forged through pain, through betrayal, through forgiveness, through survival. The kind of love neither destiny nor fear could destroy. Then something extraordinary happened. The silver mark exploded with light. Brighter than the sun. Brighter than fire. Brighter than the darkness itself. Ancient energy surged through the throne room. The power of generations. The power of every moon guardian before her. The power her bloodline had protected for centuries. Not a weapon. Not destruction.
Life.
Pure life. Silver light consumed everything. The darkness screamed. Seraphine screamed. Corruption shattered beneath the force. Ancient shadows evaporated. Broken seals restored themselves. The prison closed. The nightmare ended. And at the center of it all, Elara poured every piece of herself into saving the man she loved. Silence followed. Beautiful silence. The first true silence in what felt like years. Smoke drifted through ruined windows. Moonlight illuminated broken stone. The darkness was gone. The kingdom had survived. Then Kaelen breathed. A single breath.
Weak.
Fragile.
Alive.
Elara collapsed against him. Relief shattered every remaining wall inside her. Tears finally fell. Uncontrolled.
Honest. Human.
Slowly, Kaelen opened his eyes. Golden eyes. The eyes she thought she had lost forever. For several moments, neither spoke. Words suddenly felt too small. Too insignificant. After everything they had endured. Finally, he lifted a trembling hand. His fingers touched her cheek, as though reassuring himself she was real.
Alive. Still there.
His voice broke.
Soft.
Vulnerable. Unlike anything the kingdom had ever heard. I feared death my entire life. Elara closed her eyes. Listening. Feeling. Healing. Kaelen smiled weakly. Then whispered the truth he had hidden for far too long. But loving you, his voice cracked, was the only thing I feared more. The confession shattered the final distance between them. No crown. No prophecy. No kingdom. Only two broken souls finally choosing each other. Months later, spring returned. The snow melted. Flowers bloomed across the kingdom. The scars of war slowly healed. And beneath clear blue skies, a new queen was crowned. Elara walked toward the throne wearing silver and white. Not as an exile. Not as a forgotten Omega. Not as a survivor. As a queen. A protector. A symbol of hope. Beside her stood Kaelen. No longer the king ruled by fear. No longer the broken alpha hiding behind walls. But a man redeemed by love. A ruler who had learned that strength did not come from power. It came from trust. The sacred wolves returned to the forests. Peace returned to the kingdom. And the river where everything began became sacred ground. A reminder that destiny often arrives disguised as compassion. Years passed. The kingdom flourished. Stories of the Moon Queen spread across generations. Children grew up hearing tales of wolves and kings. Of exile and redemption. Of love that survived impossible odds. Then one quiet evening, inside the royal throne room, a young wolf pup wandered through the open doors. Guards froze. Courtiers stared. The tiny creature walked calmly toward the throne.
Toward Elara.
toward Kaelen, and upon its small paw, a silver crescent mark glowed softly, exactly like the one Elara had carried since birth. The room fell silent. The ancient wolves beyond the palace began to howl.
Long, deep,
Mournful, knowing. Elara looked at Kaelen. Kaelen looked at the pup. And somewhere far beyond the kingdom, something ancient stirred once more. Because destiny was never truly finished. And the prophecy had only just begun. The end wolf face crown crescent moon red heart.